Tonight's episode is a Mexican cartel war movie where operative Josh Brolin's character kidnaps a scrappy brown narco princess to use as leverage, but then quote unquote saves her. And when things go south, so to speak, he illustrates what the CIA often does is make a mess and then just leave, which they often, of course, do on purpose. RickRamos, this is Sicario, Soldado.
It's a very dismissive reading of the fucking movie. I'm starting to believe that maybe this wasn't your cup of tea. Is that right?
I'm not dismissive of the film. I'm dismissive. I'm dismissive of the CIA.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie is the movie. We'll get into it. But that's what happens.
No, it's absolutely right. And it is very, sometimes I feel like we're talking movies and we're approaching them almost like documentaries in a weird way. And this negative portrayal is not necessarily a vindictive rendering or an opportunistic presentation of the material. I think you watch these films and you realize, I can see how a lot of that would go down. The thing about a movie is that it's compacted into these into a 2-hour running span, which makes everything seem more immediate and dangerous for that time. The first film definitely was that, and this film, although not equal in regards to what that first film did, and I have to watch that first film again. If anything, this viewing made me want to go back to Denis Villeneuve's original film. Yeah, but I gotta say, the combination of Brolin and Benicio del Toro as both returning from the original film, I thought was great. I had a great time watching it, and it was like watching, especially Benicio. There is something about the intensity that he brings to a role, and in this film, you know his backstory better than you did in the first film. So there's a level of humanity that is in the character this go around, that you understand the motivation a little bit better, and you watch with a certain, I think, at least I watch it with a certain embracing of the material, in the sense that I know everything that's happening on screen is wrong. I know that it's all bullshit, and the government is guilty of what should amount to either war crimes or international breaking of international laws.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see anything on that screen that is dishonest. And I think that's the thing that is both exciting and frightening about a film like this.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Brolin's his attitude, and I talked about this when we did The Good Shepherd. Mm-hmm. His level of entitlement is off the charts, which tracks. I mean, it's like, of course, that guy would be that guy. Mm-hmm. That's he would be ordered by that guy, as that guy, to gather up other guys that are that guy to go do those activities. And it's just kind of like, fuck it. Like, it's that level of fucking entitlement, the level of privilege, the level of, this is our fucking oyster. You don't know it, but we're gonna show you. And the premise I mean, in the first film, I think this is a weaker film. This is Taylor Sheridan written, but I think this is weaker than the first one. And the first one also had the characters and had the Emily Blunt character, but it also had her performance.
Yeah.
But her character, what are you gonna say?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Her character really is like a counterpoint to, because she's FBI. I think she's FBI.
Is she FBI, DEA, or I can't even remember exactly what the plot of it was.
But Josh Brolin is CIA, and they use her because for a technicality, because they're not supposed to be doing shit in the United States because they're CIA, but they use her just for the paperwork, so to speak. And she's there along for the ride, she's seeing how supposedly the bad guys, how fucked up they are, but then she's seeing how fucked up the good guys are, quote unquote. And she's there so that we can be in her shoes.
Yeah.
And we're going like, fuck. It's all fucked up. But it's not one of those, it's all fucked up, so we might as well go rah, rah, rah for our fucked up side of it, because if it's all fucked up, fuck it, like, we might as well kill or be killed type of shit. It's not that, because it's just so fucked up that it's like, there's a heaviness to it.
Yeah.
And it's not preachy, but it does show that all of the idealism of going into the law enforcement world, all of the idealism of this idea of like justice, of doing the right thing, of fighting crime, of law and order, blah, blah. It just shows how all of that is just sidelined for the purposes of power, control, the shit that runs shit. Influence, money, violence. This is that, but what frustrates me about this film is actually what it really illustrates is what I said, that it's one of those, it's a film about the CIA goes in and makes a mess and then the film is over. And it kind of tracks with what happens. The premise is that you have these suicide bombers, these Yemeni Islamic suicide bombers, go to, of all places, fucking Kansas City. And I mean, anyone out there in Kansas City, if you're listening to this episode, I'm sorry, but and I'm not trying to be elite places to have violence, but my first thought was like, well, let me back up. The idea is that they blow themselves up in the store. So then the CIA goes and they're trying to figure out how they got here. And they go and they question the Somali pirate. The Somali pirates say, I don't fucking know, man, like, they're Yemeni. And they figure out supposedly that these guys were smuggled into the United States via Mexican drug cartels. So then the powers that be are like, well, we need to do something to disrupt these cartels. We need some form of payback. All right, so we're going to create a war amongst these cartels. But going back, the Kansas City thing got me because I was like, it's super random, because it's not really like a cultural target. It's not a financial target. It's not a military significance. I mean, it turns out that they're actually these are like so-called like homegrown terrorists. So then it makes sense that they didn't get they were just there. Like they weren't like smuggled and went from fucking the border all the way to fucking the Midwest. So that makes sense because that ends up like tying in because now whatever operation that they had started, they got cut off. So the CIA was making the mess, and the bosses were like, "Okay, stop." But at that point, there had already been an international incident. So then there was like, "Okay, stop," but now you have to clean it up. So the idea is that because they wanted to create this war between cartels, what they would do is they would kidnap a boss's daughter, pretending to be a rival cartel.
Mm-hmm.
Then they would take her to a safe house, like some kind of, like not a safe house, so some kind of like drug house or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they would pretend to be DEA agents in the U.S. who would like rescue her.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would release her at a facility that was located in a rival cartel's territory. So now her dad would start a war with that rival group so that over his daughter, because they set up that other, the CIA had set up to make it look like it was the rival, and so they would get caught up in a war amongst themselves. And so it would be kind of, in the way Iran Contra is like, with this hand we're gonna do shit in this part of the world, and then with this hand we're gonna fucking do shit in this part of the world, but it's gonna be, we're gonna pass money and weapons back and forth. This is gonna be like, okay, because of this, we're gonna do this shit here, and it also, this is a way of controlling it's controlling the Western Hemisphere by fucking disrupting, because if we label these cartels as terrorists and this, and it gives us leeway here, and so the issue is that the girl realizes that they're soldiers. And she's like, "You're not cops," because they're going back over the border. And she's like, "Why didn't we have to stop at the border?" And Josh Brolin's character is like, "Bitch, like, just be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we saved you. What the fuck more do you want? Like, be happy." Shit goes south. There was a double cross with the federal police, so now they fucking kill all these federal corrupt police guys, Mexican police. So now that shit ends up on the news, so now it's an international incident, so it's like the bosses are like, "All right, motherfucker, just kill everybody, and we'll just pretend it never happened."
Yeah. Which doesn't sound far-fetched.
No, that part is not. I mean, most of this shit is not.
Most of it, yeah.
Because I mean, to me, the most far-fetched was the Kansas City part. Again, no offense, no disrespect, you know?
Well, you can make an argument if you look at it from the perspective of, okay, making it a little bit more personal and to the heartland, to the middle America, where you would upset people because people are going to say, well, yeah, they're going to blow up the World Trade Center, and that's horrible, and it's, that's attacking us. But to attack real Americans where they live, innocents who are simply shopping. Imagine you were coming out of Walmart, Target, Ross, and and this shit happens all of a sudden. It builds this idea of fear that we can't. Right. And it's amplified because, to be honest, this is one incident, but it's the same as being afraid of going into the ocean. The danger is there, but there is a realization, I think, and I've always argued. Yeah, the danger is out there, and the problem, I think, with the cynical attitude that I have with the American psyche is like when 9/11 did occur. I remember the news reports and people saying, how could this happen to us? Which I took a step back and call me un-American, call me unpatriotic, call me, whatever you want to fucking say, go ahead and say it. But there was a part of me that said at that moment, that's the wrong question. How the fuck are you going to ask, how could this happen to us, when this has been happening all over the world for decades? Yeah. This has been happening, throughout the Middle East, Israel, Ireland, parts of the UK. I mean, the very idea that we should somehow be immune to terrorist attacks, I think, is laughable. I think everybody should be immune to this type of violence. But if the fact that the violence does exist, why do we imagine that we should not? Why should we imagine that we're not going to be subject to it? And
especially when it's blowback, where it's created by CIA interference in other areas.
Well, that's another thing where people will start going at you like, well, now you're blaming the victim. Do you blame a woman for being raped for wearing a short skirt? I mean, it's people come at an argument with so many. There's the attitude that we are America and we should not have to be subjected to this, and I think that's one of the main points of why. At least from a narrative plot line standpoint, that's why Sheridan set that terrorist attack in a.
Well, see, I see it.
You know what I mean?
I get that, but I see it as the fact that they turned out to be American. It makes more sense that they fucking said it in Middle America because they were probably already from there. Because in my mind, things like that happening at some store, it's going to be an American doing it. And, like, most likely it's going to be some fucking shooter. Some, like, active shooter. Some fucking incel. Some fucking, like, someone who went postal. Or some, like, soldier who went crazy. Yeah. Sort of. You know what I mean? Like, that's in my fake-ass profiler brain. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if I see it as a form of some kind of religious attack, that seems super random, like that. Or if it's basically like a political attack associated with religion too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not at a temple, it's not at a synagogue, it's not at a mosque, it's not at a facility that they were associated with or against, or you know what I mean? Or related to some group that they see as their enemy, or they're making some kind of greater statement. It just seems super random. So again, my fake ass Criminal Minds, Leslie's been on a Criminal Minds kick, so in my fake ass Criminal Minds profiler bullshit, like, I'm like, all right, this doesn't make sense, this makes sense, whatever. It's our podcast, we can be wrong on it. But the film is, whereas the first one had all of these different strands of character, plotline, character arcs, weaving their way through a narrative about how fucked up the tactics are on the CIA's part in order for them to achieve goals that they view as favorable or necessary or for the greater good, whatever circle, whichever one you want. This one was just one particular thing, kind of with less defined, because they bring Benicio back. It's less defined. It's just kind of this one incident. It kind of happens, it fucks up, and then the movie's over. So I felt like it was less developed.
Mm-hmm.
It felt more like an episode in like an HBO series.
I got you.
That was part of something larger, but we didn't see any of that. We just saw the first one.
But
first three.
The way this ends, it does allude to a third part that will come out. But I think that'll be the second part of this movie, where I don't see this movie being a second part of the movie that we watched. I think this is more of this film. The Brolin and Benicio del Toro characters were introduced in that film, but that was Emily Blunt's film. We were going through the setup and the movements seen through her eyes, whereas this film, now we're starting to understand these two men a little bit better, and I think it's an uglier look at the CIA and what they do, and the Brolin character is probably a little bit more darker in this film, a little bit more broken down, probably closer to the end, where a broken man, whereas Benicio del Toro is a man focused on revenge, who finds a momentary grip on his humanity and his struggle for this young girl, because you got to remember, this girl is the daughter of the man that killed his family. It would be very interesting. It would be very easy for him to have just killed her, but there's something in him as the father that switches it up, and it becomes a little bit. I mean, there are moments of convenience, running into a deaf Mexican farmer that he starts to communicate, and there's that connection between him and his daughter, who was deaf. Maybe those are just, easy plot lines to inject into a story, to coincidence, pushing the narrative. What was that?
To create parallels.
Yeah, it's pushing a narrative, it's creating parallels, it's all of that. But I gotta say that where the first film was a better story, it had a combination of a better story and better character development, and fleshed out character roles. This film takes what is basically what you and I, cynical bastards that we are, imagine is possible through the CIA, and puts these two sides of a coin, the Brolin character and the Benicio del Toro character, to see how they would react in the situation. So it becomes more of a character study than a traditional narrative in that sense. So it's just like, let's have a fucked up situation and watch how the characters develop through it, which I found enjoyable. It's not as successful as the first film, because the first film has more to offer and does more, and does all of what it has better. This film is driven by these two performances, and I gotta say, I was really drawn into both of them. I like both of these characters as far as a narrative is concerned. The Brolin character pisses me off, but his real life counterparts piss me off as well.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, also, spoiler alert, because of the weight of the first one, you have this perception of Benicio's character.
Yeah.
So there's a point where he he's she's wandered off in the desert she's wandered off into the desert once the federal police have turned on Josh Brolin and the boys, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm going to stay behind and I'm going to find her. So then they're like, all right, well, we'll activate the tracking device and we'll get you, on the back end of it. All right. So then at some point, now they're separated. So then Benicio finds her and he's like, all right, I'm going to for right now, I'm taking you under my wing for whatever these purposes are. I'm taking you. And I'm going to, so-called protect you. And then Josh Brolin gets the orders that, kill her, clean it up. So now at one point they have the thing where it's like, hey, this has to be done. And the other guy's like, sorry, I can't do that. That kind of scene, right? We've all seen. And it's like, well, you know what this means? Right, do what you got to do, man.
Yeah.
And so now he has to kill both of them. Josh Brolin has to just get his hands dirty, push a button, and kill them. Right? So Benicio's trying to smuggle her into the U.S. They're going to cross. They're going to illegally cross the border. So there's another plot line that involves, and that I think the kid is good in that role. This kid who's learning to be a guide, where he guides people across.
Yeah, Coyote.
Yeah, and he's a young guy, and in the film, the character he had a run-in with Benicio and Brolin and them, and he recognizes Benicio. So then now he's burned. Benicio's burned, and they they have him on this bus. They evacuated the bus where all the immigrants have gotten out, and so now it's this little ring of smugglers and Benicio. And so I'm like, oh fuck, he's gonna fucking kill them all. And they fucking knock his ass down, tie him up. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, so what's going to happen now? Right?
Yeah.
Were you feeling the same? Like,
well, I remember when I first saw this movie, I thought, okay, he's either going to kill everybody, which makes it a movie it makes it a different movie. It makes it a fantasy. Right. It turns it into Bourne. It turns it into, it's a different kind of movie that lacks the realism. But when I saw him on the ground, zip-tied with his hands behind his back and a mask over his face, and he's struggling and screaming and trying to get out, and that kid, you don't expect it to move in the direction that it moves. So when that kid shoots him, and you're like, oh my God, I just fucking see what I just saw.
Because it's not often that these main characters get off.
Yeah. But it's also the way it plays out, and they return to that spot, and Benicio jerks back to life.
Right.
There was a moment where in the theater I said, I'll get the fuck out of here. But then I looked at it and I was like, was somebody, because it's like an initiation for the kid. It is, and they show what happens to somebody who doesn't take the initiation. Doesn't work that well for that motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could try to kill somebody, and it seems like the simplest thing, but if you're not versed in it, I could see what happens happening. And basically Benicio is shot through the cheek.
Yeah, through both sides.
Through both sides. It goes straight through.
And the fucking, his mouth was open where he's hooded or whatever, and the bullet goes through one cheek, through his mouth, and out the other cheek.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's this kid doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, but it's also just dumb luck.
Yeah.
Positioning of his head.
But this shit happens. It was unlikely, but unlikely shit does happen.
And it shows the powerlessness on both sides.
Yeah.
Like he had no power in fucking saving himself in terms of like when he got captured as so-called like elite as this character is an attorney that basically they turned into an assassin. Because when they talking about them, they're like, you know how expensive it was to make him?
Yeah. I can throw a rock across the river and get you 50 of those guys. And you're like, wow, okay, yeah.
Well, he had no power in terms of that. It was just, and then now in terms of, that's that part, but in the actual living and dying of the moment where you're shot in the fucking head, it's fucking dumb luck.
Yeah.
You don't even have control over the outcome of like almost what seems like it would be certain death. And in that sense, it's kind of like, is it worse? Because it's like, you know, he's like super fucked up if you survive that, and obviously you don't have immediate medical attention. So he's all fucked up. He's crawling around. He's doing all this shit. Yeah, I was shocked.
Yeah.
And then by the time it gets to the end, where that kid who shot him, it's a year later, the kid's all tatted up, he's fucking doing his thing, and he goes to a connection spot at the mall, and Benicio's like, sit down. And he gives him a career proposition. You're going like, okay, this is a setup for fucking the next one.
Yeah.
Where's this going? Interesting.
Well, here's the thing about it. You know, both of these characters are fascinating. All three of these characters are fascinating. The kid, Benicio, Brolin. To see where they're going to grow, what they're going to move into. What's that? The girl too. You also know that this kind of activity still exists, will exist, is not going to be eradicated. You cut off the head of one monster and two more grow. You know, they say something in the movie about like, if we kill the head of this organization, now we create a war of everybody going against each other. So there's that. Or maybe I've heard that in other movies. I thought I heard it in this one.
Vacuums.
What was that?
I mean, like, power vacuums. The history of cartels in Mexico, every time the government cracks down on, you know, in the 70s it was like weed, right? Weed coming up to the U.S. And I think it was called Operation Condor, I believe. It was a crackdown by the Mexican government. That kind of like helps to really solidify the Guadalajara cartel, and then eventually, that's opium, that's Colombian connected cocaine, fucking. Then more crackdowns happen, and then there's warfare, and then there's fucking the cartel splinter in different turfs. So now you have like where there was one big group, now there's like a bunch of smaller ones, and they're rivaling each other, they're competing. You crack down against this, it creates a power vacuum. Now something else pops up. It creates more and more chaos, and more decentralization, and that makes it even harder to. It's like if you have a nest of insects and you fucking like strike at it, and then all the insects. I'm not comparing these people to insects, but you know what I mean. Like
I get I get the analogy. It just scatters. And now it's like, fuck, like
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And it happens when the CIA fucking does shit like that. They fucking topple a government and what does it do? It creates a fucking power vacuum. So now you have these factions fighting, and then the CIA, now they have to pick, like, because a lot of times their intended puppet isn't the one that, like, goes into power, or does go into power, but now there's a reaction to that, the way they had in Iran. Like, you have the Shah was put in as a puppet after they toppled Mossadegh, and then the reaction to that is the fucking the revolution of '79.
Well, you're going to see the same thing in Venezuela.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking like, it's just power vacuum.
Yeah. And then in 6 months, we're going to see it in Cuba. I mean, it's as if nobody ever pays attention to the history of these types of insurrections or these types of meddling in other countries' national politics, and you know, there's a sense that for all of the technological prowess, military might, and training that goes into the military and the CIA and all of these organizations, there is a sense of ignorance into how human behavior actually plays out.
But there's a line in the film where it's like, where they talk about winning a war, and it's like as if winning were the objective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's like, well, if you have a military-industrial complex, you need to have war.
Sure.
If you have a prison-industrial complex,
you need
prisoners. You have to have people being thrown into prison. Yeah. So you constantly have to have enemies, and if you don't have enemies, you don't have funding.
Yeah.
If you don't have enemies, you have to create them.
Yeah.
And so you have to create problems so that you can create a solution to the problem that you created. And then once that solution is no longer of use to you, you have to turn that into a problem and create another solution. And it's just a constant, like, fucking with shit, basically. And in that sense, it's like, this movie can just go into infinity, because there's always going to be some Josh Brolin somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There is no end to this story. There is no wrapping it up. There is no nice bow. There is no riding off into the sunset happily ever after, and everybody, you know, everybody is at peace. That shit is not going to happen, because either we're not designed that way as a culture or the species or governments or whatever you want to say. These are very cynical, pessimistic movies that reflect the culture. And I don't think yes, they are dramatic. Yes, they are exciting. They create these set pieces of excitement and action that grip you and pull you into them. But the difference between something like this film, the original film, and even The Good Shepherd that we were talking about last week, they're not sensational. This is not Iron Man, where Tony Stark is captured in the desert and thrown into a cave. That's sensational. That's violence and terrorism for the sake of entertainment. Whereas this is more, I think, and not to be naive about it. I know there are going to be people in the audience that are going to get a hard on from watching this kind of military might or this kind of firepower as it's displayed. These Humvees in the desert, these machine guns, and watching a head explode in front of them. There's going to be quite a few who are going to get the fucking stroke off something like that. But the reality is that there is a level of self I guess the word is protecting the status quo, protecting business interests, protecting the reality of the American way of life rather than the idealistic thing that we've been sold all these years. There's the idealism and there's the truth between what we actually live. And I think this film is more on point to the reality of what we live in, the dangers of this world, and how the CIA both protects us, but at the same time endangers us with every fucking move.
And enriches fucking the people. I mean, look at how there's he goes from the fucking meeting with the governmental leaders to some fucking dinner with the head of a fucking mercenary force, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like,
he basically said, "What's the back end?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, I want this much, and I want immunity.
I want 150 million in immunity. And you're sitting there like, God damn, these cocksuckers. And that's why you watch what's going on right now with the Strait of Hormuz. You watch a fucking scumbag, dementia-riddled leader. And if anybody wonders, how is he doing what he's doing? How is he able to accomplish this? Watch this movie and you'll find out. Watch The Good Shepherd and you'll find out. Watch these elements and then extrapolate on it based on what you know about people, corporations, organizations. Pick up a fucking book, start reading, look at the history, and then paint in the missing pieces. It's not that difficult.
Right. It's always, again, what's the back end?
Yeah.
Follow the fucking money.
Always follow the money.
Always be closing.
Yeah.
ABC.
Oh, God. You're so fucking cynical. But
it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. And I walk away from it knowing full well I'd rather be like this than pie-eyed and hopeful that it's all going to work out. This ain't the fucking Mickey Mouse Club.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. buymeacoffee.com/WatchRickRamos. It's buymeacoffee.com/WatchRickRamos. If you like what we do, you can shoot us. It's not 50 like I had said last time. As low as $5 a month. If you want to be a member, here and there, here, whatever you want. If you like what we do or you think what we do is having some kind of entertainment value, impact, blah, 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 blah. This episode goes to someone. We'll see you next time.